This brand is in decline. I'm a businesswoman.
Wait a minute.
I had a really clear job to do when I took over Bud Light. And it was, this brand is in decline.
Hold up. Wait a minute. Something ain't right.
It's been in decline for a really long time. And if we do not attract young drinkers to come and drink this brand, there will be no future for Bud Light.
You friggin' gays!
So I had this super clear mandate. It's like we need to evolve and elevate this incredibly iconic brand. And what I brought to that was a belief in, okay, what does evolve and elevate mean?
He's a disco dancing, Oscar Wilde reading, Streisand ticket holding friend of Dorothy. Know what I'm saying?
No way.
He's gay.
Not even.
Yes, even.
It means inclusivity. It means shifting the tone.
Oh, nah. Hold up. Moment of silence, bro. Moment of silence. Hold up. That's wow. Wow.
It means having a campaign that's truly inclusive and feels lighter and brighter and different and appeals to women and to men. And representation is at sort of the heart of evolution. You've got to see people who reflect you in the work. And we had this hangover. I mean, Bud Light had been kind of a brand of fratty.
Whoa, 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 whoa.
You need to shut the fuck up.
Kind of out of touch humor, and it was really important that we had another approach.
Oh my God! Wow!
So one of the things we spoke about during this whole Bud Light fiasco is namely about how corporations do not care about you, do not care about your cause. They don't especially care about who you sleep with. But again, it seems as if that's all they do care about, because the pandering is very extreme lately, especially as we get into gay month coming up in June. But the problem is that is not the case. I've said it many, many, many times that corporations never care about you. And I've heard other people say the same thing. And I found an interesting article that comes to us from the Daily Beast from the writer Matt Lewis, who kind of goes into this whole notion about how companies are essentially going to virtue signal to whatever they feel is going to make them the most money. The problem with this ideology, though, regarding the LGBTQ movement is that every time corporations tend to pander to this particular side, they tend to lose a ton of money. Hence why the whole saying, get woke, go broke, came into existence in the first place. So we're going to get into the article, guys, but of course, before we do, just consider giving this video a like so you can push us out into the YouTube algorithm, and consider subscribing because we're on our way to 20,000 subscribers. It says, don't act so shocked about Bud Light's virtue signaling. Nobody's shocked, honestly. I don't think anybody's shocked. People may be pissed, but that doesn't mean that we're shocked. It says, corporations are not your friends, my friend. They'll do whatever performative displays of correct politics they need to whenever they need to. And that's a fact, 100%. I'm not going to take that away from him because we've said it before on this channel as well. Corporations will pander to whoever the hell they have to pander to make their money. If they think, or if, let's say, tomorrow, LGBTQ pandering was the worst thing you could do in marketing, and they have decided that we're going to pander to conservatives because that's where the money's at, they will do it. They will completely 180 on you without even a second thought, simply because they feel like that's where the money's going to be. So they do this not to be your friend, not to pretend like they care, which is the funny thing, because whenever the LGBTQ side tends to find this out and realize this, all of a sudden they get mad and want to boycott the company, which is exactly what's happening with Bud Light. It's hilarious. It says, news alert, corporations don't care about you or your values. This truth was demonstrated to conservatives when, much to their chagrin, Bud Light, that most straight-laced of watery beer brands, invited transgender influencer Dylan Mulvaney to promote its swill on Instagram. The reaction was harsh. To paraphrase country music legend Merle Haggard, the bottle let them down. And the immorality of corporations corporations was demonstrated yet again when Bud Light realized it had made a huge mistake and apologized. That left Mulvaney and the LGBTQ plus community on the proverbial bus. Since then, the pandering has reached parody proportions. The latest report suggests some of Bud Light's packaging will be redesigned to include a camouflage print, because fashion patterns associated with military combat are manly. Subtlety is clearly not their thing. Now, that's what we talked about in the last video. The fact that they decided to try to do a 180 on the LGBTQ community and try to pander to what they deemed conservatives would like, it's too late. Once you make a statement, that statement is the statement you have to stick to. People hate one of two things, right? People hate pandering and virtue signaling, right? I consider them to be the same thing. But people also hate someone who can't make up their damn mind. And when it comes to Bud Light, when they decided to pander to the LGBTQ community and go full force with that, then a couple weeks later, they wanted to say, oh shit, my bad. Let's go back, pretend like that never happened, and do a horse commercial and do military camouflage beer cans. Let's just go back to that. Let's just go hardcore stereotyping of conservatives. It doesn't work. Like, you are clearly all over the place, and unfortunately for you, now you pissed off both sides. It says corporate responsibility isn't really their thing either, and it's time we accepted this fact. Corporations like Anheuser-Busch InBev, Bud Light's parent company, are responsible for maximizing their profits, period. Political stances are meant to this end. Well, is it really though? Is it really? Because all of these corporations have been able to maximize their profits without political pandering before. This political pandering only started within the last few years. So why are they doing this now? They're doing this now for other means. They're doing it for their ESG scores. They're doing it for their own personal gain, whatever was going to happen within their company, that they're going to gain money from doing this stuff, because they're not gaining it in sales. There's no way that after all the examples we have of get woke, go broke, that you can tell me that this political pandering is going to help someone garner increased sales and maximizing profits. It just doesn't work. Not on the front end anyway. If you want to talk about the back end and you want to talk about what they get from other companies that may donate to them for doing stuff like this, that's different. It says, regardless of whether they went out of their way to virtue signal for the ostensibly conservative institutions like the U.S. Army or ostensibly progressive causes like transgender rights, or both, companies still base their corporate values on how they can appease their employees and or grow or maintain their customer base and turn a profit. In this case, Anheuser-Busch made a business decision that turned out to be a business mistake. That's putting it very lightly. I think 20 some odd % on average loss in sales over the last 5 weeks is not a mistake. I think it's a bomb. They assumed that they could slowly broaden their Bud Light base and slightly reposition to a trendier, more inclusive image without anyone noticing or caring all that much. They assumed wrong. Well, yep, they assumed big time wrong. And that's their problem. They thought that they can just go a complete 180. You got to be subtle with this stuff. You know what I mean? Like, you cannot just be in people's faces with it, especially when your brand is notoriously not about that, right? Like, you as Bud Light, you might have made funny, politically based commercials before, but you never actually took a political statement before, in my opinion. And now you've made that political statement. So if you're going to do that, you got to stick by it. And the moment you try to run away from it, people just care about you even less at that point. They want to make fun of you. They want to roast you at that point. It says the problem with virtue signaling as a business strategy is that virtue is in the eye of the beholder. One man's virtue is another man's vice. That's a very good saying. And that's 100% true. You can't, when you virtue signal, you are automatically going to alienate 50% of potential customers. Automatically, because there's people out there that are inherently not going to agree with whatever you are virtue signaling for, especially when it has to do with the LGBTQ community. They are a single-digit percentage of the population, and I don't count Gen Z, because Gen Z is young kids that follow fads, all right? When we were young, we followed fads as well, and we grew out of it. It's the same thing with them. So I consider adult gay people, and that is a single-digit percentage of the population that is very tiny, and people still decide to want to pander to them anyway in the hopes to take their money. But I really don't think they get a lot of money. I wish that they would release the sales numbers for a lot of these items that they try to push out on people. Like, I'm going to do a video on Target coming up, and I really would love to see what the sales numbers are for their tuck-friendly bikinis. You know what I'm saying? Like, I want to see that stuff, but they'll never show it to you. You can only get an idea of how well it's doing by how fast it goes on clearance and how much of it on clearance it is on the actual clearance rack. So that's the only way for you to really tell when it comes to these companies. Once upon a time, we had a common culture where virtues were generally agreed upon. People generally supported ending racism or pretended they did. No, they did. They did. The problem is that people like the Democrats, unfortunately, wanted to come out and constantly bring up racism, accuse everybody of being racist because they knew that getting that emotional drive out of people would allow them to get more voters. So they make this entire fucking narrative, just like they're trying to tell black people don't go to Florida. It's the most insane thing in the world. But again, they say that because they want to keep people in mental change. It says people generally supported the troops or said they did. Supporting these causes was a perfunctory way to earn cheap applause and goodwill. Today, however, we live in two Americas. A culture war is raging and virtues are mutually exclusive. What is more, activists are working to force everyone to take a side, their side. Corporations aren't used to this. Well, the thing is, corporations asked for this because corporations honestly started this whole virtue signaling nonsense. They're the ones who said, you know what? We found a way to get people to stop hating us. You know, back in the day, 10, 15, 20 years ago, Rage Against the Machine, that was a thing, right? Like, people hated corporations, people hated companies, and they figured out a way to get people to love them. And all it took was them to virtue signal to them. That's it. Corporations virtue signal so that they keep their skeletons in their closet. They don't want people coming after them. They don't want people questioning them. They don't want people going after what their company's doing. How are they doing things? If they're a potential monopoly a lot. They don't want none of that stuff. They don't want anybody questioning nothing. So what they do, they pander, they virtue signal. Oh, look how woke we are. Look how much we love the LGBTQ community. We're so inclusive. Like us, love us. And you know what? The sad thing is that it worked. It 100% worked because people now, instead of raging against the machine, now they rage with the machine. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you did enjoy it. And if you did, consider leaving me a subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. Don't forget to like the video, comment, let me know what you thought, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Hypnotic out.